that would be just fine. The name isn't Buddy. It's Durant. Robert G. Durant. Hello, huge movie fanatic Nate, coming at you on a slam bang July 2016 day. Coming at you to review a fantastic movie. The thing that spurred on this whole idea for this review is I found this at Half Price Books in the clearance rolly rack bin. Darkman Blu-ray. This is, just the Universal. It has since come out on Shout/Scream Factory Blu-ray. But I didn't have this on Blu-ray, so coming across this on the Universal, Universal Studios bare bones Blu-ray for $3, I'm like, I'll try that. Or, holy crap, it's $2. I'm like, I'll try that. There was actually two of them, and one of them was $3 and one of them was $2. So me being kind of a smart fellow, I picked the $2 one. But this is the whole thing that spurred on this review for this movie Darkman, which I I actually saw back in the theater in 1990 when it came out. So having obviously gotten this and rewatched the Blu-ray, which of course this is the, reworked cover. This is the DVD I had, the DVD that came out in 1998. It's not even, oh yeah, it is anamorphic widescreen. But it's just the, which I'm fine with, just the original 2-channel Dolby Surround. But this is the original artwork. I don't know if this is theatrical. I imagine it's theatrical art as well, but at any rate, when it came out on video in '91, this is the artwork I like the most. It's more, colorful with him standing on the high steel and the colorful flames. And this is, I just think, I don't know why artwork has to, de-evolve these days. But anyway, the finding of this recently finding of the Blu-ray and rewatching the Blu-ray, which is actually pretty good. I mean, Universal is known for really doing a lot of DNR, putzing with on their catalog titles. And although there might be, I'm not an expert, there might be a little bit of that in this. This looks for the most part pretty sharp and pretty good. And I never intended to get the the Scream Factory Blu-ray because, I don't know, Sam Raimi is of course too highbrow now to participate in any of the special features. So if he did a commentary, which I don't believe he did, for Darkman, or if they'd done a commentary or something like that, I might have bought it. But anyway, golly, we're actually going to get on to the review. So I actually, obviously before this movie came out, I was a fan of Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, and this is obviously before Army of Darkness came out. I think this is the movie Sam Raimi did after Evil Dead 2. I might be wrong, but I think it is. This is basically, as far as I know, the first real, it's Universal Studios, come on, and the first real bigger budget, or at least bigger studio movie, theatrical release that Sam Raimi, as far as I know, ever had. Now, the story goes, I don't know if I read this in Fangoria or some, magazine back when I was a kid, 13 when this movie came out. I used to get, some of these Gore Zone magazines, and there were other non-gore, more sci-fi related ones, but if memory serves, the story with this movie is Sam Raimi was and is a comic book fan and stuff, and in addition to being a fan of Spider-Man, which of course he later got to do 3 Spider-Man movies, he was a fan of The Shadow. I'm a huge fan of not a huge fan, but more of the old-time radio, but I also, I love how he looks in the comics and stuff, so I'm a Shadow fan as well. And so, the word around the campfire is, back in the day, Sam Raimi was interested in doing a Shadow movie, and I guess the word is that they couldn't get a hold of the rights or whatever, so they just said, okay, F it, if we can't do Shadow, I'll create my own cool guy in a long flowy black coat and a hat and with his face covered. And I think, as so often that happens, in the cases of low budget movies, or in this case not being able to get rights to a particular property, it kind of, something cool happened, which arguably Sam Raimi's The Shadow would have been probably pretty awesome, and probably a lot better than what we got 4 years later with whatever his name is, Shadow, Russell Mulcahy's 1994 Shadow with Alec Baldwin. I'm sure Sam Raimi would have done a much better job, but I digress. So what we ended up coming up with is Sam Raimi probably just going around thinking, okay, what the hell can I do with the same kind of cool Shadow look, but it's not the Shadow? Well, come up with this idea for this guy. Of course, back in 1990 when me and my dad saw this in the theater, I mean, I don't think many people really knew who Liam Neeson was at the time. I sure didn't. I mean, this was the first movie I saw him in, and to me, it was just a, you know, a nobody kind of face. You also have Frances McDormand, who would end up being, I think that year, the same year or year following, you know, in Miller's Crossing or whatever, which I would become familiar with her in. I don't think would see that movie until 1991. It may not have come out on video until 91. I think Miller's Crossing came out in 90, and probably not video until 91. But Darkman is fantastic. Obviously, it's funny because at the time in 1990, I was very interested in like Phantom of the Opera and all this kind of shrouded, covered, you know, like just phantom-y characters. I was also, you know, interested, and I still am. I think it's a fantastic movie. I saw in the movie, or was movie Mr. Movies at the time, I saw a cover featuring a guy wearing a dark, you know, jacket and, you know, harassing a girl on the cover, and would be the movie I, Madman, which I saw at the same time, 1990. So it's really interesting. This happened several times in my life where, like, if I'm really interested in something, all of a sudden it just seems to, like, you know, the same kind of thing or something very similar kind of sprouts up and comes along the scene, and it's just like I take it for granted. I didn't even realize, like, oh wow, this is what I'm interested in. All of a sudden we got this, you know, summer blockbuster movie. I would imagine I knew it was from the guy who did Evil Dead 1 and 2. I'm not 100% sure though. I think I would have been that smart in 1990 to know that the same guy who did Evil Dead 1 and 2 directed this movie, but I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Darkman is, long story short, fantastic. It's a movie that unfortunately, like, I mean, obviously kind of the visual effects and some of those kind of things kind of have aged in the 26 years since this movie's released. But having rewatched it on Blu-ray, it's the first time I'd seen it for a while. I mean, what really matters is not the, you know, the quality of the visual effects, but the quality of, you know, the story, the performers, and in this case the slam bang, Sam Raimi-esque, fantastic, you know, editing, use of camera and editing technique and all this and that. He was really fantastic back in the day. I'm not too much of I don't really watch what he does now anymore, you know, Oz and Great and Powerful I haven't seen. I'm not really interested in that stuff. Unfortunately, he's become so huge that he's almost too huge to do anything anymore. But this is back in the day, you know, when Sam Raimi was much younger and really had all this cool, you know, really cool stylisticness about him. I mean, the opening scene is fantastic, where we basically establish the baddie of this movie, who was played by Larry Drake, Robert Durant, who is, you know, would go on, of course, a couple of years later to be in Dr. Giggles, fantastically cast in that. But I think this is the first movie I'd really seen Larry Drake in as well, and he's fantastic as this character. I mean, almost more, probably even more interesting than frickin' Peyton Westlake. So I guess at the interest of making this review a little more short, I'll just say this is fantastic. One of the things, having rewatched it now as a guy pushing 40 and being more mature and not so much a kid anymore, it's kind of convenient that this guy who was working on synthetic skin would end up, you know, getting burned and needing synthetic skin. You know, that never even occurred to me until this last time I just rewatched it within the last week. I'm just like, oh, how convenient. It's kind of like a guy working on, I don't know, whatever, a prosthetic head, and he loses his head and he needs a prosthetic head, and luckily he's been working on prosthetic heads so he can make himself one. Basically, the whole problem with, you know, the whole dilemma with the, you know, the scientist played by Peyton Westlake in this movie is they're working on synthetic skin, you know, for burn victims or whatever, skin, road rash victims, whatever, people in need of skin. And basically what ends up happening in the movie, the whole movie, or actually all three freaking movies, I think, is, we're just talking about this movie though, is that the synthetic skin only lasts for 99 minutes in the light. And then just by chance, you know, the power, you know, the power consumption blew the fuse or whatever the hell it is, and the lights went out and the thing went past 99 minutes into 100. And the skin lasted, which is it's kind of cool, you know, and very simplistic, childlike plot point, where you have this skin that, hence the word Darkman, this synthetic skin that works fine in the dark. The irony of the whole movie is, it's not like he's running around in the dark with his fake masks on. Like they don't even use it. It's like the only time he's in the dark is when he's in his Darkman garb, and he's never really running around in the dark in these fake synthetic skin masks. So the word Darkman, it makes sense in theory, but it kind of doesn't at the same time. Like, in theory, he could run around all night, you know, in the dark wearing his fake masks, but he doesn't. So, I don't know. That's just my older, pushing 40, you know, smarter, less childlike brain just kind of, I guess, ruining it, you know, overthinking it and just being too much of a whatever, you know, about the whole thing. So one of the other things I found was kind of weird at the very beginning, after the, you know, end credit, or the opening credits, which kind of bugged me. I mean, the opening credits are cool with the fantastic Danny Elfman music and stuff, but the thing that's always bugged me about the opening credits is, you know, they kind of use this smoke and stuff, and it's like mirrored, and the split point where it's mirrored is like a little bit offset on one of the sides, so it's like the mirror isn't straight down the center, it's like offset. That's always bugged me, and it still does, and I don't understand why it's like they did that really sloppily. So that's kind of a bummer. It's just a little point, but I mean, I don't know how that would ever gotten by anyone, whoever did it. I mean, surely they'd be anal enough to know that, put the mirror right down the center. Maybe they did it intentionally. I don't know, whatever. But that bugs me. Another thing that's kind of stupid, and this is just a really nitpicky plot point, or not a plot point, but a point, is in at the very beginning, after the opening credits, and they're doing looking at the skin thing, and he's like, time Yakatito, and it's like whenever we see the POV of the microscope, it's got the minutes running right in there, and as soon as Yakatito says 99 minutes, you look in the thing and it says 99 on the little thing, and it's even seconds going by, I think, and it's just like, and the lights go out, and it's like, Yakatito time, and it's like 100 minutes, and then he's like, what? And he looks in the thing, and it's like 100 minutes plus, you know, seconds, 2, 3, and it's just like, that's kind of a plot point that's kind of weird. I don't know why they put that there, knowing that he keeps on asking for time, whatever. Maybe they did that, whatever. But anyway, those are just nitpicks. Long story short, this movie's absolutely fantastic. You know, Frances McDormand's some kind of lawyer, and she's in cahoots with, or not in cahoots, but she's just realizing that the guy she's working for, or at least the guy that she's dealing with at the time the movie starts, is this bad guy who found this Belisarius memorandum, which was, we tell the viewer, we keep track of this particular memorandum by putting this coffee thing on the thing, which will be done in Hudsucker Proxy years later, say 4 years later or whatever, with the same kind of thing to, you know, make note of a particular point on a piece of paper. And of course, Sam Raimi having had part in Hudsucker Proxy as well. So anyway, I'm going way too long with this review, but long story short, this movie is fantastic. I think we'll go, it's a really strong, just because some of the fakery, or because of some of the, I don't know, stuff that's just some of the nonsensical things. Like at the very beginning, they take 3 pictures of this, shit, I can't remember his name. I said Yakatito, I don't know if that's the guy's name, but this Asian guy, this helper Asian guy's face, they took like a side, like a mugshot, side, front, and the other side pictures, and they scanned them into the computer to make this like Yakatito mask or whatever. And what's so dumb is, like, later on in the movie, he makes a mask of himself with just a picture of the front of his face, and later on he's just taking pictures. Well, actually there's more pictures of different sides of, but it's just kind of, I don't know why they did that. Like in the very beginning we show like we need both sides in the front, and then later on he can just use a piece, not only that, but he can just use the front of his face, but not only that, but then graft this side. So really only needed half of the front of his face to make a full face mask, which makes no sense. So these are the kind of little teeny weeny gripes that keep me from going 4 stars on Darkman. So it's a very strong 3 3/4 stars. Very strong, almost 4, but these little just points, and particularly the title, him being Darkman, and not, really taking advantage of the fact that he could run around all night with his mask on. Like, why isn't he meeting his girlfriend like at night? Why can't they hang? Well, I guess she's a working woman and she probably sleeps at night, but I don't know. It just, those points, along with the whole nonsense of him, wearing masks for people who are completely shorter than him and fatter than him, and all of a sudden, very much like with Face Off years later, you put on a mask and then you're the same height and the same physique, the exact same physique as the person you're trying to be like or whatever, like that heavier guy from Swamp Thing later on who ends up getting thrown out the window. Like those kind of just little gripes. Like if you're gonna make him like other people, cast people the same like physique and the same height so it's more believable. That's just a little, kind of gripe. Another thing is, later on in the movie, he's actually wearing like, oh, there's this one character who's wearing like what? I think at some point someone wears two masks, and you'd think that those would start bulking up where the top little one would be all fat. You take that one off and it's another fat mask and whatever. So those are just little teeny weeny gripes. Obviously, having seen this in the theater, I got to experience one of the best, probably the biggest audience reaction scenes. Was absolutely fantastic, and having rewatched it recently, I just think this is probably one of the most overall well-conceived and executed scenes, which was the famous, pink elephant scene, which is absolutely fantastic, where the character did a little light adjustment there, where the character Peyton Westlake, played by Liam Neeson's taking Frances McDormand to the daytime. Of course, you can't go to the carnival at night. You got to go during the day, so your face only lasts 100 minutes, and it probably takes even 15 minutes to get there and whatever. So anyway, obviously one of the standout scenes is this pink elephant scene where he's throwing these balls and trying to knock down the things, and he does it till he gets the thing, and the guy's like, "No way." God, it doesn't count unless you're behind the line. And obviously this character, as we're explained to, is prone to acts of rage and violence and superhuman strength, and that's funny how it comes out in this one scene with we'll just call pink elephant scene, where he wins this thing for his girlfriend, and he's just like, he's denied it, and he spazzes, and he's like, this guy is so funny in the lens they use. This is an example of the scene being fantastically conceived and executed by just the writing, the camera work, the editing, everything, and the guy's like, take a hike, and his fingers land here, and he's like, in a fantastic Raimi shot where it's like screaming Frances McDormand, screaming Liam Neeson, and screaming victim guy. Oh man, and he throws him through the thing, and he's like, take it, no, take it, please, take the fucking elephant. And now the frickin' audience was just in stitches. That was probably, the movie's got more than that as far as, entertaining scenes, but if you took an entertainometer and had it in the theater, chances are that was probably the greatest audience reaction in the whole movie as far as laughter and whatever, and that was fantastic. Another big one, what actually got quite a big laugh, is when he's at the very end, or towards the end, where he's getting, his stronghold is being infiltrated by Robert G. Trent and associates, and they got all these grenade launcher gun and helicopter and chasing him, and he's like falls into his thing, and he's like, "Oh, you gotta be shitting me." Like, some of that stuff actually did garner favorable reactions from the audience. This was a fantastic slam bang movie. Saw it with my dad in the summer of 1990. I want to say we saw it twice in the theater, which is very much possible. Like I say, just because I'm an aging old fart, not old, I'm an aging fart. I'm not a fart, I'm aging. I can't go full 4 stars because just some of those just gripes I have. But, obviously, all around it's a fantastic movie. Unfortunately, the visual effects kind of don't hold up too well. But again, that's just really not a huge point. What's important is how it's like written and acted and executed and stuff. And I'd say one of the least important elements is the, visual effects. In closing, I should say that obviously the movie features a fantastic score by Danny Elfman, who had come out with at least, gosh, I don't know how many, Jesus, did he do at least 3 that year? He did Dick Tracy, Darkman, and I want to say Edward Scissorhands came out that year too, so he did at least maybe 3 or more scores that year. I don't know, that guy was busy back in the late 90s, late 80s, early 90s. Fantastic Danny Elfman score. Oh yeah, another thing that was kind of too bad about this movie is like, what is it? It says 136 minutes, which is just like what, like 4 minutes shy of being 99 minutes long. Am I correct in saying that? Yeah, because that's 96 minutes. So if it was just 4 more minutes, it'd be 99 minutes long, which would have been kind of cool, seeing as how that's the maximum time. Or maybe even 100 minutes would have been cool. I think they really missed the boat by not having this movie be exactly 99 minutes long. That would have been cool because that's the exact amount of time that his skin lasts in the UV light or whatever. So that was a cool plot point. You're probably wondering about this. This kind of is proof, well, not necessarily, you could probably get it on eBay at any time since, but this is kind of proof in a way, if you believe me, that I saw this movie or was a fan of it the year it came out in 1990. This is something that I imagine I acquired at Suncoast, motion picture company, probably, days or weeks after seeing the movie, becoming aware of it. I probably wasn't too thrilled with the pink at the time because, I'm like a heterosexual male and stuff, but whatever. I did wear it at the time, and this is a 26-year-old t-shirt, which, I wore on occasion, and I'm showing picture right now, a couple pictures of me wearing it in 1990. So this is kind of a cool keepsake. I just wanted to, I actually didn't know if I'd ever be able to find this, and I found it, so yay, you can enjoy the shirt with me. But fantastic movie, which unfortunately, as I'll get to, did spawn a couple direct-to-video sequels, which I will talk about next, not nearly in as great a length as you shall probably see. I'm about to do it now, but I can't imagine I'm going to talk about 2 or 3 to the length that I talked this about, unless I'm just listing off my complaints, which, anyway. I apologize, this video went on a little bit too long. So, Darkman, fantastic movie. They ended up making a Nintendo video game. I think it's just the original 8-bit or whatever bit system. The original system had a Darkman video game. I don't know if I ever owned it or not. I imagine I played it. I probably did own it, but they made a Darkman video game. I want to say there was like a Darkman, at the very least there was like a movie adaptation comic book. I don't know if there were like trading cards, but Darkman was kind of it kind of pushed it a little bit back in the day. Obviously they made this t-shirt, and then they made a couple straight-to-video sequels and stuff like that. So very much recommended movie. I can't comment on the Shout Factory Blu-ray, but I can say this Blu-ray, if you can find it for $2 or $3, is pretty good. I just watched it on a 2-channel, 2-speaker stereo, so I can't comment on the 5.1, but it looks like there may be a little bit of whatchamacallit, noise reduction, but not as much as like Tremors. The Blu-ray of Tremors is really kind of, waxy faces and kind of whatever. This has more details, so highly recommended movie, and if you can find this Blu-ray for $2 or $3, I'd recommend that. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you next time.